Welcome to the Software Lifecycle Stories podcast. We bring you stories of what worked and sometimes what did not in the course of discovering, designing, developing, delivering, and using software-based solutions, as shared by practitioners who went through these situations. L Ravichandran, known to most as L Ravi, is the president and COO of Tech Mahindra. In his career of over 4 decades, he has seen and been part of the growth of the IT industry in India. In this episode, Ravi talks of his experiences, views, and what customers expect from IT. Listen on. So, hi Ravi, thanks for joining this podcast. You've been in the industry for a long time. For our listeners, you can introduce yourself.
Okay, sure. Hi, Shiv. Good afternoon. I think, oh my God, it's been 40 years. 41st year in the industry. I remember starting in 1978, August end in New Delhi. At the time, just 1 year after the National Informatics Center, NIC, was formed by the Department of Electronics to computerize all the Indian government. And so since then, I've been in the industry and very thankful to be part of both Tata's, HCL, and then the Mahindra groups. So the 3 large groups, I've been part of their IT services arm of these companies. So it's been a great innings. I think the industry has been good. And since 1991, after about 9-10 years of doing a lot of work in US and being settled back in India and trying to set up the global delivery centers for the companies I talked about. And so it has been, even that has been 26, 27 years. So it's been a great going. And really happy that we are having this podcast when I've just finished my 40 years in the industry.
Yeah, wonderful, Ravi. I didn't realize that milestone. So at that time, did you think that software had a future, or after statistics? Now, how did you get into software?
Yeah, I think we had in the Indian Statistical Institute, Calcutta, where I studied, we have, it used to be a 4-year undergrad honors and then a 1-year master's. And in fact, if you look at computer thinking and whole statistical data analysis, and everything was started by Professor Malnabis, who founded Indian Statistical Institute. And so the first batch of specialization of computer science was started in my institute in 1977 when I was just getting into my master's and trying to look at what specialization I should take, what major I should do. And at that time, the new major, computer science, got added. And so I was always thinking that all these statistical algorithms and huge amount of calculations and how it would be nice if you could write programs to do it. And then I got this opportunity. And then I said, why don't I take computer science as the major? And at that time, obviously, I knew that the computers are going to be the future because right from basically World War II, things have been moving. And we also know that the mainframe era was very big in the Western part of the world, even though India hasn't picked up that much. And so I had an inkling that it's going to be the age of computers, and then got this opportunity. So I said, instead of doing advanced courses in statistics as one of the majors, I should pick up computer science. And in fact, that almost everyone who majored in computer science actually got campus selected to join National Informatics Center. So
Oh,
I think that also became a great positive motivator for my juniors. And he said, if you take up this major, everyone gets a job. And a gazetted officer job in government of India. So, and of course, I didn't know all of us are going to be 100% placed just in one company. But I think that statistics and actualizing all the statistical theories and modeling and all the kind of correlations, regressions, and really trying to find the insights in data. And I knew that without computers, it is not going to be kind of possible. And but it just happened that my kind of university also came up with a major. And I was the first one to go and sign up. And then there were another 10, 12 people joined. And all of us landed up in Delhi working for the government.
That's very interesting. So what probably was a trickle at that time, and you've been with the flow. And in fact, you also influenced a lot of flow. In one sense, a lot of things that have happened with either Tatas or HCL or Mahindras, you played a very significant role. So I have actually 2-3 questions triggered by what you said. The first one is, now starting with statistics. And after probably working in more of enterprise COBOL type of applications, how does it feel to get back to all the big data, AI, ML, and things that are being talked about today?
It is. Basically, I tell my folks in Tech Mahindra where I work that everything is a circle and everything has come back to where I started. Whether it is from the mainframe era to we got into client server and a thick client and back to thin client and back to cloud where the mainframe is the cloud, where kind of all we had was similar to mainframe. So I say it's taken a complete turn. And I think kind of feel extremely happy that the field of statistics, which has been my kind of a major subject and where I spent kind of more than 4 years, and that is being really recognized as kind of key enabler for enterprises to make their decisions. And in fact, kind of one of my classmates who's a professor in statistics, he basically even mentioned that maybe the word statistics would be changed and it would be called data sciences. And so really happy to see that basically it's all coming back. And I just wish it came back 20 years earlier. But it's better late than never. And it is, and so I think obviously the power of computing, the expenses, because 10, 15 years back to run a large statistical model, you need millions of dollars worth of computing. And today you can buy it for tens of dollars in cloud. And so obviously a lot of other things have happened, which has enabled this whole statistic, data sciences, and the big data to become reality. But it's a great feeling that I've been part of this, both the computer science industry and then the statistical kind of a faculty there. And so the combination is what is really changing and kind of giving the next much, much deeper level of insights to enterprises. And so it's been a great feeling, yeah.
Yeah, the other point you mentioned, which is also something that triggered another thought, which is about the cost of computing. I remember that when we started coding, we had to write code on paper, then get it punched, and then the time taken to make any corrections was long. So you had to spend a lot of time on the desk reviewing your algorithm or getting somebody to review and all that. Now with computing power being so abundantly available, people write code and then, let's see if it works. And if not, we'll come back and fix it. So from an individual contributor, when you're now leading a very large organization, Do you see any changes in terms of the styles programs are being developed?
Yeah, I think I have to be very careful because being so many years in the industry, and anything I talk about, the way we used to do, maybe kind of viewed as an old man saying things about that that generational gap. But I think, however, basically two things. One is getting back to your first point. I actually tell while discussing with all my customers who are also of the similar vintage, and how did this happen? How did this whole big data, artificial intelligence, and proliferation happen in the last few years? So I used to say that, like we say in our astrology, all the stars are aligned. So sometimes the astrologer will say to the client, all the stars are aligned and you will have a great next few years. So I think the computing power, which is reduced so much, and then the whole kind of thing of cloud, and then kind of you don't need proprietary kind of data centers or proprietary networks to connect and get the computing power. So the computing power in hand. And then, of course, the mobile phones and the mobile communications, where the information can be personalized. So various kind of technology. If you look at IoT, the price of sensors falling below $10, and it's because we all used to have SCADA and numerical control systems and control systems in factories, but what used to cost millions of dollars, and you can monitor a machine in $10. So everything together came in. Otherwise, the algorithms and various other things are almost same as what I studied in my statistical class 40 years back. And so it is not that the new algorithms are coming. Yes, they are coming, but fundamentally they have not changed. Just the computing power, accessibility, cloud, and the communication way to kind of reach the individual has changed. So in terms of new way of working, I think that it has given huge kind of facilities, because there needs to be, because of the way we were constrained of, say, writing code and kind of punching it on a card, and the cost of a single compilation error was so high that we used to debug the code on paper, to the extent many of our colleagues can read the punch hole in the card like the ASCII characters. So, but kind of right now what I feel is 20 compile, 30 compiles a day, when we used to do barely one a day. Obviously, there are positives and there are negatives, because when we were sitting and debugging on paper, then the code quality, the code styling, the quality of code, everything used to become very visible. And then he said, no, it's not looking good. Let me improve the quality, improve the structure of the code. And I think that maybe in this age of hundreds of compiles per day, that you again need tools to enforce code quality and code standards and code structures, etc. So I think we are, in fact, some of the kind of projects where I have seen, where the team leaders are coming and saying that, can you not just fire compiles every minute and just look at the code and do a code review. When you do code review, just go to a quieter place and do a code review. So I think even in the new age, people are coming with some of the things we used to do, which is just look at the code and then contemplate and then read your kind of almost like the creation. You're writing code which is going to do something. And it's almost like an artist or a sculptor, and then looking at his painting or the sculpture and say, okay, and what are the flaws and how do we fix it? And not say, I'm done and I'm going to give it to the compiler to find mistake. And of course, and so it's a combination. I think that Obviously, it used to take much longer time. And if you make a mistake, you have to wait till the next day to change the cards and recompile again. But you can kind of do it faster now. But there are obviously good things in both. And I think what I've seen is successful organizations apply both and then say the quiet time for you to clean up your code on your own. And then so that you don't have any major structure errors and code quality errors. And then, of course, kind of use compilation on the fly, kind of which is available now as a kind of productivity enabler rather than wait like what we used to do. So the combination of both.
Yeah, that's interesting to have quiet time to clean up code. So, do you have any interesting stories from either your own code or your team code or somebody else's code that you spent a lot of time debugging, and in hindsight, it looked, well, what you call as a trivial oversight?
Yeah. I think a lot of horror stories on basically not spending the time and then looking at the code. I think that we have seen almost 100% of what we call the code red projects, which get escalated to the COO level in the last, 15, 20 years. That I have seen that one of the major problems has been that basically in a hurried way, the code has been written. And it is almost like the project managers are chasing an imaginary deadline, say code completion, because code completion is one milestone in the project, and not realizing that the code completion has to be at the acceptable level of quality. And then the kind of a test, defect fixing, and then passing it through UAT needs to happen in whatever is the time frame which is set in the project. So it is like very imaginary that I need to get the code completed. And what I have seen is many of it, 50-60% of the code written over a period of 9 to 15 months have to be nicely put, refactored, but almost rewritten, because the code it was written, just there was no way that one could even fix a defect, because if you fix a defect, even the best of the best coming in saying, I have no idea where else I would have kind of created a defect, because the code is so badly structured and code quality is so poor. And so I think that, so that I just keep telling them, what is the meaning of having a champagne to say code completion when that your code completion is not really the milestone. All you are looking at it is the code complete with all the necessary connectivity checks. And then after refactoring is done, basically one could see that that even the junior most campus freshers are able to add functionality, remove functionality, fix defects. So we have seen that. And again, a lot of resistance when we were introducing the code checking kind of tools in the build. Like there are code structure checking tools, code quality tools. And people used to say it is delaying the project. And so I will not agree, and I want compilation to be done, build to be done, even when the code quality checker is failing the code with even 30% marks. So usually you have a 90% kind of a cutoff and a lot of exceptions. And I keep telling them that there is a direct correlation that you may be able to finish the code and move on to the SIT or whatever is the next phase, but you will never reach UAT, you will never complete UAT. And so we have even went back to the customer and said, don't get fooled by code completion. We don't want to get fooled. You should not get fooled. Let the team take another X number of days and let us implement the tool. And let the tool check the code quality, code structure, etc. And those projects have always turned out to be that after the code completion, the SIT, UAT everything has gone much, much faster. And of course, need not tell you about the problems in kind of post kind of production support. And so I think there is a huge amount of kind of data and real life horror stories I've gone through to say that either you go back to the old way like I used to do, take that quiet time and maybe use some reused recycled paper so you don't feel bad about environment, and take those 5-6 pages of your key components, key algorithms, look at the code quietly, and then look at the structure, and then imagine if you have to delete a functionality, how will you do? If you want to add something, some change has to come, how would a third-party programmer, another programmer will come and change? And just imagine everything in your head. You do that, or there are tools available, and make sure that they become part of your coding life so that nothing goes into build unless the code quality tools pass your code. I think there is absolutely no alternative. You could do either, but of course, with all the automation, if automation is available, then why not use automation? Especially if your project budget allows for the tool. And so it is very, very clear, a lot of scars and a lot of late nights, a lot of weekends, and a lot of customer escalations. And I think lesson is more or less the same.
Yeah. So one question here, probably slightly in a tangent. I know that you are a serious follower of the World War II. Now, if you were to look at what happens in a war-like situation, the strategies and all that, are there some new ways of addressing all these bugs that a team or even an individual can take to come up with a strategy to conquer the bugs?
Yeah. I think in the war, most of the generals will say that you have to plan every large battle you're going to fight, knowing fully well that nothing can happen by plan. Okay. So you talk about Eisenhower and you talk about even anybody from the Russian side or the German side. So that everyone says the same thing, that in war, you have to plan. You have to plan everything meticulously, but I think nothing is going to work as per plan.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what they really meant was that the structure of the battle, the objective of the battle, and what are the key strategic points to capture, whether it's bridges or river crossings, what are going to be the tough kind of criteria and how we are going to do, those things are not going to change because the river is not going to go away. So if you look at, for example, that, say, the user acceptance, you are changing the customer experience, the front-end screen, and there is no point in coming in the end saying that, no, we had all the software ready, but the users did not accept. Or security clearances, if you are rolling out a software all across the globe, which is a new product, and using a lot of open source tools, because the CISO of the customer has to sign off. And so the fundamental blocks of when you reach the river, and how do you build a temporary bridge, or how you are going to secure the bridges first before the kind of army enters the town, so the bridge is secure for you to cross. And I think so many resemblances with our project plans. So what are the things which, for example, a lot of things we have come across, hot houses, we are talking about the business users being part of the team, and we are talking about show and tells. So we are talking about customer demos early on, and the DevOps, where we basically say there is no UAT first and then operational readiness test. So operational readiness test is as important as UAT. So how do we get operations people involved, the call center people involved? So many of these things are very, very closely resembling a battle planning, so that finally you have to cross the final river before you say enter Berlin in Second World War is going to be the kind of river of operational acceptance and call center training. So how are we going to roll this software out for 10,000, 20,000 call center agents and get them trained? And there is no point in not thinking about that river crossing and then say, I'm going to conquer Berlin. And so what are the major obstacles and what are the major stakeholders who needs to be part of the plan? And how are we going to do at the top level? And at the same thing about the code, what are the core components of the code and who is going to be, so how do we make the core algorithms very, very robust, and how are you going to pre-test, how are you going to create an infrastructure? So I remember we used to talk about the fundamental infrastructure required for a transformation project. So all the middleware, the database connectors, and various algorithms. Even I remember you and I writing date conversion, or whether the date is valid or not. Those kind of common libraries we used to write in COBOL. So how are we going to, those are all basically equivalent to getting the basic supply chain, and so that the soldiers can actually have that wherever they conquer, they can actually stay and then go to the next step. And so a lot of common knowledge, don't get me because I'm a big fan of World War II, and I can look at hundreds of things from the war side to our kind of war, which we fight every day, the software delivery, especially the program management transformation project. So I think a lot of commonalities.
Yeah, usually I think when you look at a completely different domain, you get ideas for breakthrough. I think this is also very interesting. So what is your take on the agile practices? Because you mentioned early demos involving the customers, a few other things that are commonly adopted by many teams, including DevOps teams. So what is your take on agile practices?
No, basically, absolutely. I think that fundamentally, I think that this is the only way to go, because when we started, you remember IBM, there used to be statistics in the early 90s when we started global kind of delivery in India in a big way. And I think all these guys, Gartner will come and say 95% of the transformation projects have failed. Are some very big number, and all the government projects. 5 years later, the project is canned, and all kind of scary stories. And to the extent, I think one of the customers I met about a month before, and he basically took over a new position as a global CIO. And then he said, my first recommendation to the CEO was, any project which has got more than 1 year business benefit realization, I want to cancel. So even though my budget is going to be reduced, he said, I strongly recommend that we don't do all these projects. So even 1 year is too high, but I'm willing to accept up to 1 year. And anything beyond that, I want to cancel. And so I think the kind of faster go-to-market is going to be the only way to survive. And there is just absolutely no time for enterprises to do large projects where we can do things in a sequential manner, so that we can do basically people have to react. Today, if a new product is coming out of Reliance Jio, immediately Vodafone and Airtel has to react, and they cannot wait so they have to drop a lot of products they thought which was relevant. They need to bring in new products and services. And so the need for enterprises to be very fast to their market. And if we as the IT service provider, if we are not able to support, then we are not doing our kind of job as a service provider, and whoever is willing to adopt the customer will go to them. So absolutely required. But at the same time, I tell my teams that don't take it like a tick mark theoretical exercise and start doing the practices. I think doing fully automated release, build automation, release automation, test automation, I think is a no-brainer. Everyone must do. And looking at smaller scrums. And I actually tell them that, again, the scrums is not for you to come and keep pushing. No, I am just pushing from Scrum 1 to Scrum 2 to Scrum 3. So I'm saying that look at it in such a way that any backlogs, if you want to finish the project, then not more than one Scrum. So otherwise there is a tendency to basically say that don't think of it as, say, waterfall, but smaller kind of
iterations.
Unit. And then I say that the stand-up meetings are all are very good. Everyone is at least seeing guys face to face. And it is not so much the stand-up meeting. I feel that there is that 15-20 minutes of personal touch at the end of the meeting where somebody walk across to somebody else's desk and say, okay, you're working on this piece, which is required for me. And what can you do? So I am, so how long is it going to take you? So shall I come back? So I'm going to take some time off. I'll come back to work at 10 p.m. By the time your code will be ready. So a lot of these personal interactions, because again is that the biggest problem is the team leaders and the project, they want to do this one-on-one scheduling. So that I tell them that when you get into agile mode, that you should let the individuals talk to other individuals and fix their schedules. Finally, everyone is looking at the objective. So I found the post-stand-up meetings are more useful than the stand-up meeting. So the stand-up meetings tells everyone what is going on. So it is not a secret that some module is running behind, some module is ready, and when somebody is going on vacation or a customer has asked for a new change, which is affecting sprint number 3, whatever it is. So everyone knows and why the customer has asked for the change, why it is needed. So I think a lot of openness, but I think that a lot more work to be done to let the project leads and scrum leads and all that to say, I need not be the only orchestrator. I am going to enable, and most of the orchestration the team members can do by themselves. And how do I make sure that if there is a final testing and scrum passing team, and how do I go and talk to them and say, what do you test? And then why are you failing my code? What can I do to improve? So these are the things individually they have to talk. And I think that concept, it is great. And but again is that I will not go 100% theory and then say use kind of what you think is the best, and then I tell the guys, and you tell me if you are not using something, please come and tell me why it is not good for you. Then we have seen most of the team start using everything. So the request for all the senior people who are head of business units and delivery units, don't come and say this is great and thrust it on people's throat. You tell them that this seems to be a good concept. It jives with the new customer philosophy, new customer requirements of very, very quick releases. And why don't you pick what you think are the good stuff? And whatever you don't pick, let's have a brainstorm and then say, maybe we can improve on that or we can modify that because the DevOps Agile could be customized for our project. And then you will get the same kind of benefit. So there are a lot of kind of psychological change management the leaders have to do. But kind of overall, I believe that that is the way to go. And I think many of the companies in the services industry have actually moved into that at various levels. And I think everyone has heard about this, everyone has been trained, and most projects are practicing some form or other.
Yeah, good. See, one last question is one thing that I'm hearing from many of both customers as well as teams that I've been working with. is that with all this uncertainty and like the example you mentioned about one telecom operator coming up with something, others have to quickly react, there is a focus on outcomes rather than output. So at your level, when you interact with customers, now how do you commit on outcomes, or what kind of expectations do you see coming from your customers?
Yeah, basically, extremely good question. I think, like the term I use, saying operation successful, patient died. We don't want to be in that situation. So, lot of customers, because the CIO function is getting redefined as the business enabler, and the CIO's bonuses and variable pays are now attached to a lot of business outcomes, and which is capturing market, customer attrition reduction, and so many new products launched per year. So which are all used to be the product management teams and the marketing team and the sales teams. Now many of those kind of KPIs are coming into CIO. And if it comes to CIO, that they are obviously more than happy to pass it on to the vendors like us, who are Indian software industries. I think that we have to, obviously, that we don't control every aspect of the market or the quality of the product, which the customer is going to do. But minimum the customers are going to expect is that you're going to put part of your profit, whether it is some percentage of the project revenue, you're going to say you're going to put it, which is going to tie up to the business outcome. And so finally, you are part of my CIO's team, and we swim or sink together. So if my company is not doing well, then you can't be making all the profit, and my company is not doing well. So we start looking at what are the parameters we can. There was one customer who basically said, right first time, looks very simple, but basically says, when I tell the customer that your package will arrive today, it will arrive today. So that is the definition of right first time. So everybody, starting from their CEO, president, to various senior vice presidents, presidents of the company, to the IT service provider, everyone had X% of their pay, which is tied to this. So everyone is looking at what is the end-to-end life cycle and what needs to be fixed by IT systems, what needs to be fixed by the non-IT or operational processes, but the right first time. And what is the percentage? How many customers where we said we are going to come to your house to install the broadband, and the engineer doesn't show up, or engineer comes and the set of equipment is not there. So because various systems are not collaborating. And so this was a very good kind of KPI, business KPI, which the IT services companies have to do. So that is when we brought in our business process consultants. And we even looked at the process and recommended to the customer that even if I fix IT and get all the systems talking, there is no way that with your current process it's going to work. So we improved scheduling of the engineers, the field workers going. We improved the shipment of routers. And so really solving end-to-end business problem. And of course that you might have heard of companies becoming more domain-oriented, more consulting-oriented in the design space. So we are also getting ready. And so this one example where we have been able to influence the business outcome and then able not to kind of get into losses and then actually get that payment. But I think that more and more challenges will be there for the industry, where people are going to say that how at least NPS kind of customer score. So you need to increase my customer score. And that means that all the customer interactions, whether web or mobile or chatbot or artificial intelligence or Google Home. And when they reach a store, when they have a problem, and almost every experience of the customer should be enhanced, and so that my customer satisfaction goes up. So various kind of things will come, and I think we are all getting ready. And various customers have already asked the companies to do part of the business by business income, but slowly the percentage will move up. And I think that is the kind of big challenge and a great opportunity. Because then I think the Indian companies need not worry about only Accenture or big MNCs can do this kind of business consulting. And Indian companies cannot do the regular statements you hear. They will all vanish. Now, once we start accepting the business KPIs. And so I think exciting times for the industry. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I think that's a great example you shared about collaborative partnership. So, and it's also very heartening to hear that after 4 decades, you still see a lot more things to be done by IT in terms of impacting the society. Yeah, it's been great talking to you, Ravi. I'm sure we will have a lot more topics. We haven't explored some of your other interests, maybe some other time. And thanks a lot for sparing the time.
Thank you, Shiv. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
If you like the show and would like to share your experiences with the community or know someone else who might want to do that, please get in touch with us at podcast@pm-powerconsulting.com. That is podcast@pm-powerconsulting.com.